Game over. Game over. What have we got? What have we got? Game over. What have we got? 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 Game over. What have we got? 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 What have we got?
Nicholas. Over 9,000. Hold on, guys. I'm getting a call from my mom. No, it does not.
Game over.
Do you want commentary? Because that's up to the viewers, really. Viewer being you. What's with no? What's with that? I just asked if you wanted commentary. What? What the heck happened there? I was in the little... I don't know what happened there. Oh, jeez. You haven't given me an answer. What the heck? that's what I get for not pausing the game when I plugged my mic in. Oh dear. I'm just gonna add commentary. I can listen to Bo anytime. So, yeah, this is Crash Bandicoot. Crash didn't have as big of an influence on me as a kid as Spyro did, but, you know, Insomniac and Naughty Dog had a very close relationship back in the day. I think they actually still do. But in fact, that was a thing that just happened. Oh jeez. In fact, in the old games, in the old PlayStation 1 games, you could actually input codes on the title screen, and demos for either, you know, Spyro or Crash would actually appear, you know, inside the game. And so, you know, that was always a cool thing, because, like, you know, you'd be playing, Spyro the Dragon, you know, the first one, and, you know, you'd just put in, a code. I forgot what it was, but it was just like a command code at, like, the title screen, and then a demo for Crash 3, I believe, came up, and, you know, that was pretty cool. But, would you like to see some Crash in the next New Year's stream? Because it's a pretty long game. Or, well, they are pretty long games, I should say. They could probably, you know, fit into a stream. Sweet. I'm just waiting for them to make Spyro the Dragon Insane Trilogy. And, you know, I think literally the whole internet is actually talking about that. You know, the possibility of a Spyro, you know, remaster like this, because, you know, these were originally PlayStation 1 games, and then, you know, Activision went in and fully, like, recreated, you know, all three games piece by piece exactly the same, but with, you know, PS4 graphics. And I think it's really awesome that they kept this game a PlayStation 4 exclusive, because, you know, that's how both Spyro and Crash started out. They started out as, you know, PlayStation, you know, mascots and IPs. I mean, like, Sony didn't necessarily view it that way, but, like, literally everyone who was, you know, partaking, you know, in the game saw it that way, because, you know, they were, you know, made by Insomniac and Naughty Dog, you know, both of which, you know, were, and I'm pretty sure still are, you know, Sony exclusive, third-party companies, if that makes sense. And And so it's like I'm glad that they decided to stick to Crash's roots, even though with the last game, what was it, like, made in 2009? Gosh, even though, like, as of the 2000s and whatnot, he moved on to the GameCube, the Wii, the Xbox, the 360. And whatnot, because I talked about this in my status post I made. I think it was yesterday, but even though Naughty Dog and Insomniac created Spyro and Crash, they didn't technically own them. They were actually owned by Universal Interactive Studios. And so when both of their 3-game contracts were up, Universal just kicked Insomniac out of the deal for Spyro, and for money reasons, Naughty Dog was forced to let go of Crash after a 4th game, actually. And so that sucked, because the portions of the games and whatnot, like the profit that came from it was very little for Naughty Dog, and so they were forced to let go of Crash. And then they went to make on Jak and Daxter, which I'm pretty sure everyone who knows my content even a little bit knows how much I love Jak and Daxter. But in fact, one of the enemies in this game actually makes a cameo in the first Jak and Daxter game, the Precursor Legacy. And that's actually pretty interesting. Oh jeez. Essentially, what I'm doing here is I'm just swapping between the characters every level, except for when it's required, or like bosses and whatnot. Right now, I'm playing as Coco, Crash's sister. She was not in the original game. I believe she wasn't. It's been ages since, I've checked out, the original. But, Activision, since they currently own the rights for, Spyro and Crash, they, went ahead and, ported, Coco, into the game, once you beat a certain amount of levels. I recorded my first hands-on experience with the game, and I was planning on uploading that, but I never got around to it, and at this point, I don't really see a point to it. And, that bridge level that I was on, I actually, just before coming into the stream, I recorded, my first hands-on experience with that level, although, like, I'd obviously, seen and known about it, because, I knew about that, rope walking bullcrap that's in the game. Like, what the heck were they thinking when they made that? That's what I want to know. It's just like, what the heck were they thinking when they're like, here, let's make the most efficient way to beat this level, jumping onto a really thin rope and walking across the entire stage like that. Like, bullcrap! It's like instinct cheating. What do you mean? I knew I knew about that because, you know, like I said, I'm familiar with Crash. And, you know, No, the thing is, that's actually how you're supposed to beat the level. That's the thing. It's like, there's like a 90% chance that you can't beat the level unless you know, you jump onto, you know, that rope, and you know, they programmed it in the game for a reason. They programmed that in the game for a reason. I don't understand the reason, but I mean, you know, because the thing is, if they wanted you to go, you know, the like 10% chance of completing it how it looks like you should be doing it at first glance, you know, going through all those platforms, you wouldn't be able to jump on the ledge, if that makes sense. You wouldn't be able to jump on the rope if that wasn't what they were intending for you to do. And there actually are points where you do have to, you know, jump on the platforms and whatnot, but for the most part, that is what they want you to do. It was a conscious decision to go, hey, we want to have oh jeez, we want to have you jump on this rope and go into this really infuriating thing. And the thing is, I'm only on the first game. This is the first game in the entire you know, Trilogy series, really. And it's just like, this game is ridiculously hard for a first installment. It's pretty ridiculous. Okay. I only have 23 fruit. Oh jeez. That's
over.
Nope. The future installments are actually easier. The future installments are actually easier than this game. Because, I mean, in this game, you really only have one attack, and that's, you know, the spin kick. Or, you know, jumping on the enemy. Or just, you know, like, traditionally, like, jumping on the enemy, but that's like almost every single platformer ever. And that's not really an attack, because it's a mandatory thing to do in order to play the game. You need to jump. And you know, later games, you know, added new stuff that made it difficult, or that made it easier. And you know, even like, I think like as they were finishing, you know, development on the game in 1996, they were just like, this game is too hard. like even like Andy and Gavin, you know, the founders of Naughty Dog, were like, this game is too friggin' hard. Oh jeez. And you know, here's the thing. Here's my policy when it comes to things like you know, Spyro and, you know, Crash and whatnot. It's that, like, cause they both have reboots. You know, Spyro has The Legend of Spyro, obviously, and, Crash has the two, Crash of the Titans games, and, you know, Crash of the Titans got a lot of hate, and I really never understood that. I mean, because it was really just because the formula had changed from, you know, the classic, you know, gameplay standard, and I'm just like, come on, guys, how stupid can you get? You're really gonna get upset at a reboot when they're still, you know, doing stuff, you know, with the original character and whatnot. And my policy is this: if the reboot works, then I'm totally okay with them changing a formula in something, especially when they have the capabilities to do both the original series and the reboot at the same time, and so that it's not even really a reboot and it's more of like a spin-off series, you know? And that's my policy with Spyro, because it's just like, I love both classic Spyro and The Legend of Spyro. And they're two totally different series that have no continuity between the two of them whatsoever. And I mean, like, you know, classic Spyro, you know, was made during the platforming revolution, you know, the 3D platforming revolution back in, you know, the late 90s and whatnot. And so I'm like, and The Legend of Spyro is more like God of War. It's a combat-oriented video game. It's like, you know, Sonic. It's like the Werehog and whatnot. And it's very story-driven. In fact, you have amazing actors in The Legend of Spyro. You have, you know, Elijah Wood. You have David Spade. You know, you have Billy West. You have Gary Oldman. You know, you have. You actually also get in the final game. You also have, oh geez, my IQ is dropping here. Hold on a second. I'm oh geez. Mark Hamill. Wow. Wow, I spaced there. Mark Hamill is actually the main villain of, he actually plays the main villain of Legend of Spyro. And you know, his voice is, you know, distorted and whatnot because, you know, he's, you know, like, oh geez. But he did a phenomenal job as the main, you know, overall villain. And my policy is, if you can do multiple series at once without hindering themselves, all revolving around, you know, the same general character, I would never bash that, and I would support both of them being available at the same time. Because, you know, like the Mega Man series, you know, it has so many spin-offs. You know, the main series, of course, being, you know, the classic games and the Mega Man X series. But if you can do something like that, you know, I am in total support of that. And I would have loved to see Spyro do something like that. I would love to see him, you know, I would love to see Activision pick The Legend of Spyro back up, as well as classic Spyro. And have you noticed any moments where I've actually broken the game a couple of times? Because I think with you watching, I've actually broken the game a couple of times. Oh jeez. But no, like, but no, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, Spyro and Crash falling into the hands of Activision was a mistake, but that's not the mistake. The problem was Activision had it when, you know, they were a really awesome company, and then you know, the 2010s rolled around and they dropped in quality. And you know, they started, you know, becoming more of a cash cow, you know, beating dead horses, you know, like COD or I think that was them, and you know, how they implemented, you know, Toys to Life with Toys for Bob, you know, I really don't have any grudges or anything towards Activision because, you know, they've made some really great stuff. I mean, I'm playing, you know, this for crying out loud. This is a really awesome game, and it's such a nostalgia trip for so many people. You know, because, like, this isn't just like, you know, your traditional, like, Pokemon remake or whatever. This is piece by piece exactly the same level design as, you know, the original games. You know, everything is exactly the same, it's just updated graphics. And so it's just like, you know, they know how to make some really good stuff. It's just they have, you know, history with making some not so great stuff. And so it's, in fact, like Legend of Spyro, you know, Activision had a hand in the Legend of Spyro too. So it's just like, so it's just like, I really don't understand where all this, you know, fury is coming from, because, like, you know, when you get like older people talking about Spyro, you know, they'll typically be talking about, you know, the classic, you know, 90s, early 2000s games. But when you hear people talking about Spyro overall, it's generally the Legend of Spyro, because the Legend of Spyro formed a massive cult within the franchise, and you know, it had such an amazing story and whatnot, and just like generally, like everyone generally loved, you know, the character interactions, you know, the voiceover. Some people are mixed about the gameplay. I personally love the gameplay a lot. In fact, as far as, you know, combat-oriented gameplay goes, Legend of Spyro is probably my favorite, in terms of, like, combat-oriented gameplay that's not, like, you know, like RPGs or whatever. You know, more like, you know, action-adventures games and whatnot. And so it's like everyone just gives Activision so much crap, and it's like, I don't find that fair to them. I don't find that fair to them, because, you know, they're bashing the same company that made the stuff that they're upset that, you know, the experience was sort of ruined for them. And so I'm just like, I don't blame Activision for what has gone down. I blame cause I mean, like, I blame more so like corporate decisions, cause, you know, a lot of people seem to fail to realize that, you know, in terms of like Skylanders and whatnot, that wasn't just Activision making the game. And so it's just like, and, you know, I've already said before, like, like, I don't, like on the stream, I was just like, I don't necessarily hate the game. You know, it's just not for me, because, you know, it's just one of those games that's just too ridiculously easy for me. And you know, like, the dialogue and whatnot is, you know, was too corny for, you know, a 10-year-old. And so, and so it's just like, you know, I don't necessarily, I feel like a lot of people get hung over the fact that, you know, Spyro and Crash are in Skylanders, and I feel like if they weren't, everyone would be totally okay with it. I feel like everyone would be totally okay with it if, you know, if they weren't in it. Because, you know, I mean, for one thing, you know, Spyro's, I mean, it comes back down to people getting frustrated over petty things like character designs and, you know, and things that don't really work for what's been established for said character. And I mean, you know, I've stated how I feel about the game. I really don't like it, but, you know, I don't, like, I won't criticize, you know, people for enjoying it, and I won't criticize, you know, the developers or whatnot, because what they did is they made the characters I grew up with relevant again. You know, they did a great job in, you know, bringing them back, because, you know, okay. Because, like, you know, Crash, you know, until, you know, I forgot which one it was, but until, one of the more recent Skylanders games, he hadn't seen an appearance anywhere except for maybe, like, a mobile phone game, since 2009. And you know, Spyro, you know, hadn't been seen since 2008, and so they did a great job in, you know, introducing, you know, this current generation, you know, to these characters. And you know, I could never bash that. I could never bash that. And, you know, those games were made in, you're talking about 2013, man. You're talking about 2013. There's been like Trap Team and other stuff, you know, since then. But I mean, like, what's stupid about Skylanders Spyro's adventure is that, like, for one, he's not even the main attraction on the friggin' box art. And oh jeez. I think it just went to fact check. That or okay. Well, one sec. I gotta close the stream out here, but you know, it was fun, you know, having you guys, you know, watch me suck at video games. But I gotta go. I can probably still chat on DeviantArt because, you know, I finally got my phone back. It was finally fixed. But that's the end of the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.